The next page is the cover of Famimaga 64, featuring a vibrant design with the magazine's title prominently displayed. It highlights upcoming games and features, including Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for N64 is teased with top-secret materials, Wave Race 64 and Seta Motorsport. Rev Limit on the cover. Mission Impossible for N64 gets a preview with USA Direct exclusive interview. Mentions of Dragon Quest II, Street Fighter 02, Momotaro Dentetsu Happy, and Mini 4 WD Shining Scorpion for Super Famicom. Also shown is Wonder Project J2. This page is a full-page advertisement for the Sufami Turbo, a peripheral for the Super Famicom that highlights the SD Gundam Generation series of games with 6 entries on sale or upcoming. The ad also features screenshots from the games, which include strategic gameplay with mobile suits and unit customization. The Sufami Turbo unit itself is priced at 3,980 yen and plugs into the Super Famicom, allowing for enhanced gameplay and extra features. The ad encourages players to experience the heat of the game with the Sufami Turbo. The next page features an advertisement for the Sufami Turbo, a peripheral for the Super Famicom. It highlights games such as SD Ultraman Battle and Ruru Mahjong, as well as Gekisu Sentai Karanger, Fua Fua Panic 2, and Crayon Shinchan. The ad also features screenshots from the games. The Ultraman games allow you to master special moves and battle against other players. The Mahjong game is a tile matching game for up to 4 players. Karanger is a simple action game where you control a race car. The Fua Fua Panic 2 puzzle game features star characters and a power-up. Crayon Shinchan offers a puzzle action game with water balloon fights. This page features Sakura Kasugano from the Street Fighter series. The text translates to Ryu, I want to see you again. She is standing in a school hallway. This page is an advertisement for Street Fighter 02, Street Fighter Alpha 2. The ad features several screenshots from the game, highlighting characters like Sakura, Ryu, Chun-Li, Zangief, Nash, Ken, Dan, and Dhalsim. It boasts about the evolved Super Combo system, the 18 playable characters, and the refined gameplay. The game was available on PlayStation and Sega Saturn, with a Super Famicom version also planned. The ad includes release information and prices for each platform. This page is a contents listing for Famimaga 64, dated October 4th and 18th, 1996. The highlighted articles include Wave Race 64, a perfect navigation guide; Monstania, complete strategy guide with charts for SFC; Wave Race 64, high performance technic info; Famimaga Weekly, a new weekly magazine; Famimaga 64 ranking box; Satellaview Station; RGB Maniac; Hyper new releases; Ultra Techniques, featuring tips for Star Ocean and Fire Emblem; Genealogy of the Holy War; New game calendar. There's also a game index with page numbers for Nintendo 64 and Super Famicom titles including Wave Race 64, Aiku no St. Andrews, Chameleon Twist, Ganbare Goemon 5, Kwanpa, G-League Live 64, Super Mario 64, Chaukukan Nighter Pro Yakyu King, Mission Impossible, Rev Limit, Wild Choppers, Wonder Project J2, Earthlight Lunastrike, Wizardry Gaiden IV, Winning Post 2, Program 96, Umi no Nushitsuri, Super Lamp Collection, Super Nichibutsu Mahjong 4, and Star Ocean and Street Fighter 02, Spriggan Powered, Dai Kaiju Monogatari 2, Dragon Quest II Eyes, and many more. There's also a section for Game Boy titles, including a new Rock-On section for Super Famicom's Marvelous. This page from Famimaga 64 features several articles and previews for upcoming games. There's a breakdown of the magazine's specification table, explaining how game information such as compatible hardware, genre, memory, and multiplayer support is represented. The N64 section highlights several games: Mission Impossible, tentative title, promises an exclusive scoop; Wonder Project J2, Koro no Mori no Josette, focuses on the increasing popularity of Josette and includes coverage from the Tokyo Game Show; and Rev Limit, tentative title, offers the latest scoop on the racing game with the tagline, Full Throttle. The N64 Maker Report celebrates the launch of N64 and gathers various developers. Games mentioned include Aiku no St. Andrews, Wild Choppers, Ganbare Goemon 5, G-League Live 64, Chaukukan Nighter Pro Yakyu King, and Chameleon Twist. The Super Famicom section includes Super Famicom Dragon Quest II with a tagline, and Street Fighter Zero-2, which promises in-depth coverage. Other games mentioned are Momotaro Dentetsu Happy, the puzzle game Quanpa, Thoroughbred Breeder 2i, and Winning Post 2 Program 96. Finally, they draw attention to new Game Boy titles in the Game Boy Now section. The next page is a full-page advert for the Nintendo 64 puzzle game Quanpa, marketed as an action puzzle game where you rotate a cube to clear panels. It highlights the game's 4 modes, including Stage Clear, VS Survival, 1P Survival, and Puzzle Mode, featuring 100 stages. The advertisement ends with the tagline, "Once you start Korogashi, you can't stop." The suggested retail price for the game is 9,800 yen. This page is a full-page advertisement for the T&E Soft Nintendo 64 game Quanpa. It's described as a puzzle game that challenges players' brains, offering a new standard in puzzle gameplay. The ad features screenshots of the game and boasts that it brings life to cubes, urging the reader to be the one to do so. The advert promotes its debut soon. The next page is an advertisement for Super Black Bass Pocket for the Game Boy. It highlights the game's release date, price, and developer/publisher. It emphasizes that the popular Super Black Bass 2 has made its way to the Game Boy, retaining its realism. The advert contains various screenshots of the game, including top-down fishing scenes and catches, plus boasts features like freedom on a boat and realistic fishing action. This page is an advertisement for a rumored Mission Impossible game on the N64. The page features the tagline, "Emergency Scoop." It mentions that secret agents have landed in Japan, tasked with an impossible mission. A file has been received, labeled Top Priority, containing information that takes precedence over everything else. The content relates to a big title planned for future release on the N64, analyzed by the editorial department, with shocking information to be revealed. The game is currently referred to as Tentative Name. The page features a screenshot of a 3D character in a red-toned environment, appearing to have arms outstretched. The release date and price are unconfirmed at the time of publication, and mentions Pack-in Video as involved in the project. This page is about the game Mission Impossible for the Nintendo 64. The game is described as an adventure where the player takes on the role of a complex and mysterious spy, linking to the movie's setting. The game has 10 missions, with the initial one mirroring the film, involving stealing information about a traitor within the CIA. The storyline diverges, offering original scenarios for the player. One screenshot shows what appears to be a party scene in an American embassy, similar to scenes in the movie. Other image is a room with the Czech and embassy flags, like the embassy in the movie. The article notes the dark atmosphere of the game, which heightens the tension, linking it to the spy genre and the movie franchise. It references the TV series and movies, noting the updated style. It describes hacking and high-tech security systems as key elements. The page features the quote, "Good morning, Mr. Phelps." The article encourages readers to watch the movie to prepare for the game, and states that the Cold War is over, so the mission of the spies will be more challenging. This page is about the Nintendo 64 game Mission Impossible, and how the gameplay shifts between normal mode and action scene mode. Normal mode offers a third-person perspective for puzzle solving, exploration, and spy tasks, while action scenes switch to more cinematic angles for combat. The camera automatically adjusts to the best viewpoint. The game will feature both close-quarters combat and gunfights, and the action is enhanced by the N64's 3D stick controls. The game features AI characters with unique traits, and their behavior can shift depending on how the player acts, which affects the storyline. It also poses the question of success or failure in missions, and the need to adjust strategy for the next attempt. The next page highlights the enhanced graphics and camera system of Mission Impossible on the N64. It emphasizes the game's impressive polygon-based structures and environments, where even small items like desks, chairs, and medicine-filled ballpoint pens are rendered in detail. The camera system, dubbed Floating Camera System, allows for 360-degree viewpoint changes. In normal mode, the camera follows the character from behind, but players can freely adjust the camera using the 3D stick. This feature allows for a cautious peek around corners to check for enemies. The article also notes that the player's perspective can be shifted to a high angle, looking down on the scene. This page features an interview with the developers at Ocean of America about the N64 game Mission Impossible. The game is described as a spy simulator where players take on the role of Ethan Hunt from the IMF and undertake challenging missions using their wit, the environment, and gadgets. The AI for the characters is highlighted, with the ability for them to react authentically to the player's actions. The 3D analog stick is emphasized as being crucial, as it allows players to easily control the character's movements, from walking to running to jumping. The developers express enthusiasm for the N64, praising its capabilities and noting that they have been able to push it to its limits, promising an immersive experience with detailed graphics. The developers also share that about 50% of the game is complete at the time of writing, and they are working hard towards its release. They express the hope that Japanese fans will enjoy the game, with its many elements of espionage. The next page is an advertisement for Wonder Project J2, Korlo no Mori no Jojo, for the Nintendo 64, scheduled for release on November 22nd. The page features information about characters and game elements in Wonder Project J2, including the character Jojo from Korlo Island. It introduces new characters from Blue Land, such as tour guides, Dorawa, and Boar. Screenshots showcase locations like the Mega Float Noah, where Jojo meets Dorawa and Boar. The page also shows a photo of cosplayers dressed as Jojo at the Tokyo Game Show. The text teases a detailed look at the game, promising information about the game system, character charm, and sound. This page introduces new characters from Wonder Project J2, including a boy named Poco, who is staying with Karen, the owner of a bar. It discusses Poco's mischievous nature and possible connection to Pino, the protagonist of the previous game. The page also explores the relationship between Karen and her daughter Sapphire, hinting at family drama. Furthermore, it shows screenshots of Jojo meeting Karen at the bar, indicating a meeting is tense, and highlights areas in the game where Jojo and others are enjoying jet skis together. The next page dives into details about Wonder Project J2, subtitled Koropokur no Himitsu, on the Super Famicom. It discusses how the game communicates Jojo's status on screen, noting improvements from the original Wonder Project J. Specifically, the HP and MP, stamina, are displayed as wave lines, with colors shifting from blue to yellow to red as they deplete. Sleeping restores HP completely in one night. The page also explains the meaning of the on-screen elements. The game shows the number of days since arriving on the island, which is decreased by resting to recharge and other situations. The money and achievement rate are displayed, and the achievement rate goes up as everything is completed, which can change the ending. It also shows how to manage Jojo by moving him, interacting with items through the character bird. Several screenshots are shown with descriptions for each scene, including the status screen and inventory screen. This page features Wonder Project J2 and provides an overview of Jojo's interactions and behaviors within the game, specifically focusing on her actions and the sounds associated with them. It explains that Jojo's reactions can vary based on her mood, sometimes ignoring instructions if she's in a particularly good or bad mood. The page also details the sound effects accompanying Jojo's actions, such as footsteps and exclamations when she stops suddenly. The game uses anime-style expressions to convey Jojo's emotions, and the character's signature line is highlighted. Various screenshots show Jojo running, stopping suddenly, and expressing surprise. There's also a bit about how she behaves in certain situations, like when eating pudding, with a comment on the stiff polygonal model. The page also shows that there are specific locations where Bird can give instructions. The next page continues the guide for Wonder Project J2, focusing on teaching Jojo about Aisatsu, or greetings. It emphasizes the importance of communication with people and how Jojo learns and grows through these interactions. The page breaks down the process into steps, starting with sparking Jojo's interest in greetings. It showcases conversations with characters like Karen and Fishea, detailing how Jojo learns from these exchanges. Karen scolds Jojo about entering a house without greeting properly. The guide details how Jojo starts thinking about greetings, exploring different ways to say them. The page features screenshots of Jojo attempting various greetings, including mimicking an old man's USSU and a fisherman's mannerisms, which are humorous but not quite right. One panel shows Jojo greeting with Mankey, and it is described that there is no need to go that far. Eventually, with guidance, she manages a satisfactory greeting, leading to Karen's approval. This page is a data file focusing on the character Josette and the bird-like creature, Bird, from Wonder Project J2. It provides character design sketches and development notes. Josette's design is described as resembling a junior high school student, and the page showcases various sketches of Bird with different expressions and actions. There's an emphasis on Bird's movements and how they are meticulously crafted in the game. There's also a small screenshot of Josette and Bird in what appears to be an in-game scene. The next page introduces Rev Limit, a 3D racing game for the N64. It emphasizes realistic graphics and gameplay, noting that the developers are using detailed data for the cars, aiming to recreate real-world racing experiences. The game features a variety of tracks and allows up to 4 players simultaneously. Screenshots showcase in-game racing scenes, highlighting the detailed environments and cars. The page also mentions that elements such as tire size and vehicle ride height will affect the driving experience. This page delves into the details of the racing game Rev Limit for the N64. It highlights the detailed instruments and displays within the game. The page discusses the tachometer and speedometer, along with other gauges like the fuel gauge and water temperature gauge. These instruments are said to be more detailed than in previous racing games. The game calculates fuel consumption, impacting pit stop strategies. The tachometer displays engine RPM, and the speedometer shows the car's current speed. The page also explains the gear shift indicator, water temperature gauge, and fuel gauge, as well as the turbo meter. The crash damage is proportional to the speed of the vehicle. Hitting an obstacle at speed can lead to retirement, but braking and steering can help avoid these situations. The next page is about tuning balance in the racing game Rev Limit on the He64, emphasizing how it affects race outcomes. Tuning options like tire size and wing adjustments are crucial. The page points out that tuning allows for improving cornering and straightaway performance depending on the setup chosen. It highlights the importance of tire size and wing presence, affecting a car's performance based on its power. The page discusses how adjusting the car, such as adding wings, can enhance cornering stability, while larger tires on powerful cars improve power transfer to the road, increasing speed. It also briefly touches on the importance of the right settings for optimal performance. This page dives deeper into Rev Limit on the N64, focusing on team management and driver roles, offering both Team Director and Driver modes. In Team Director mode, you manage the team, setting tire, fuel, and car adjustments without driving. Driver mode puts you behind the wheel, competing in sprint and endurance races. Sprint races are short bursts, demanding quick reflexes, while endurance races test your stamina. The page also teases a replay mode, where players can review their races from various angles, learning how to improve their driving lines and approach to each course. Also highlighted are 0400M and 01000M straight course races. The next page spotlights Aku no St. Andrews, which translates to Glory of St. Andrews, a golf game for the N64. The article emphasizes character customization, allowing players to create unique golfers with adjustable height between 120 centimeters and 220 centimeters, handedness, and other features. The chart screen is mentioned, showcasing 4 attributes: momentary power, stamina, technique, and mental strength. These stats influence gameplay, affecting shot power, accuracy, and resilience to pressure. Players can also customize equipment, choosing from various balls, fa, itamaki, 2-piece, 3-piece, and clubs with different head materials: carbon, persimmon, titanium, metal. The page also shows screenshots of in-game menus for player configuration, club selection, and shot types. This page continues the coverage of Glory of St. Andrews for the Nintendo 64, highlighting its focus on recreating the famous Scottish golf course. The game aims for realism, simulating weather effects like rain and wind that impact gameplay and course conditions. The article mentions that fog can obscure the course, affecting shot direction and visibility. Several game modes are available, including a tournament mode that spans 4 in-game days, stroke play, match play, and a training mode where players can practice specific shots. The game allows up to 4 players to compete, either against each other or against computer opponents. The training mode lets you adjust weather conditions, such as wind direction and speed, allowing you to practice specific techniques. The page mentions the importance of considering the lie of the ball and shows screens of gameplay with different times of day. This page is an introduction to Wild Choppers for the Nintendo 64, a 3D shooting game where players pilot combat helicopters against military terrorists in a futuristic setting. Players choose from 8 different helicopters, each with unique capabilities, to tackle missions where they have to defeat enemies and destroy bases and munition depots. The game features real-time action, and the results of each mission affect subsequent stages. It's important to destroy bases and munitions depots to hinder the enemy, as undestroyed facilities will restock enemy resources and make later missions more difficult. The next page gives a maker report of Wild Choppers on the N64, highlighting the game's systems for perspective changes and replays to enhance the combat experience. A key feature is the ability to dynamically change the camera angle, allowing players to fully enjoy the 3D battles, view damage, and track ammunition in real time. The visuals emphasize realistic combat, with special effects triggered upon successful attacks. The page also explains how to read on-screen information, emphasizing the importance of monitoring the aircraft's condition via various gauges. Scoring is based on enemy takedowns and possible bonuses, while the shield protects the chopper with its durability being key to survival. The fuel gauge requires constant attention, as running out of fuel leads to mission failure, and the radar is used to locate nearby enemies, differentiating between combat zones and other areas. The reviewer also highlights how impressive the war tank is in the game, which can be destroyed by 2 missiles to obliterate it. The camera offers various perspectives, including a standard view and a cinematic replay system after clearing stages. This page dives into Konami's Ganbare Goemon 5 for the N64, revealing behind-the-scenes insights from the planning documents. It's noted that the game is still in development, so content is subject to change. The article highlights several key features. The Goemon impact stages involve piloting the giant robot, allowing for 2-player simultaneous control of weapons. On-screen displays show vitality as oil levels. The game also features distinct level structures, where information gathering is crucial. Players can visit shops and inns. The character Ebisumaru's special ability, Human Fish Transformation, is shown. The review notes that the game combines 3D action with puzzle solving. Instead of purely defeating enemies, players must use character-specific abilities. The article includes screenshots showing 2 players in action, emphasizing how the screen setup and information displayed changes in 2-player mode. Also shown is the shop feature, where you can purchase health refills and armor. The next page features an analysis of the camera system in Ganbare Goemon 5 for the N64. The system allows for a flexible multi-view perspective, automatically adjusting the camera to follow the player, but giving the player control over the camera angle, especially during Goemon impact stages. The camera offers 4 different viewpoints. It highlights camera perspectives and techniques to enhance gameplay, with close-up shots during special attacks and crash replay feature for dramatic moments. The page also introduces characters like musical performer Harukaze Danshin and Margaret Ranko, and a mysterious robot from the game's 3D battles, with an unknown name. Lastly, it showcases the Otsukitai, support characters, and provides a peek at the mysterious organization, Neo Momoyama Bakufu. The next page is an advertisement for J-League Live 64 for the N64, featuring Kazu and Joe playing with brilliant techniques. It highlights the game's key features, including 8 different camera angles to play with and select from. This includes TV camera, sideline camera, cable camera, end zone camera, stadium camera, shoulder camera, ball camera, and N64 camera. The page also discusses replay features, such as shot replays and variable camera angles. This page is a maker report for J-League 16 clubs for the N64. The game features real player data from the 1996 J-League season, allowing players to compete for the championship. Game modes include exhibition, tournament, and PK battles. The page highlights several features. In-game mode changes, allows players to adjust controller settings and formations during gameplay. Supporters, the crowd reacts to player actions with cheers and jeers. Field of view, the radar display helps players see the entire field. Player control, the 3D stick allows for precise player movement and actions. The game features various camera angles, similar to replays, and shows real player data, while the game allows you to change the level of freedom. The next page is an advertisement for Chaukukan Niter Pro Yakyu King, Super Spatial Niter Pro Baseball King for the N64. The game emphasizes polygon-based graphics to create unique characters, with two-headed versions of real pro baseball players. Each player's facial expressions and batting style are captured using texture mapping and polygon graphics. The game features varied batting forms, with character-specific stances and swing animations. Pitcher forms are also recreated, including fastball and sidearm styles. The 3D stick is used for nuanced bat control, allowing for specific hit types like bunts. This page is a preview of the N64 title Chameleon Twist from Japan System Supply. The page highlights that the weapons in the game aren't just the chameleon's tongue. It showcases in-development screenshots with the tagline, "Texture is being applied." The game, previously known as Chameleon Kid, is described as a new sensory action game in development, with the intention to incorporate the chameleon's tongue mechanic. The page features images of the game's polygon character models and in-game environments. It also introduces the concept of 4 playable characters for the versus mode, noting that while they may appear as simple color swaps, each character will possess unique attributes and combat styles. The page questions what the names of these other chameleons will be. The next page presents a preview of Dragon Quest II for the SFC. It emphasizes the freedom players have in battles by using a fully command-based combat system, similar to the original on the NES, and showcases new monster graphics. The preview highlights how players decide the actions of their entire party in battle, with stats shown for characters named Akuris, Yubu, Manabu, and Shintaro. The page mentions the freedom players have in deciding how to deal with monsters, and stresses the strategic and tense feeling of battles with the freedom of complete command selection. It features screenshots from battles, as well as the menu options. Another screenshot showcases a battle from Dragon Quest VI, a monster called Platoma, and the attack options available to the player. The page also lists the release date and price as TBD. This page highlights the battle system and monster actions in Dragon Quest II. It shows battle screens with updated graphics and a focus on monsters. One screenshot shows monsters called Sugion and Aberezal in a battle scene, and another features Zombie and Yubu. The page emphasizes strategic elements like attack and defense options, which vary depending on the enemy, and how the party's characteristics change based on character class. The next page of this magazine focuses on the battle commands in Dragon Quest II. It explains the 6 basic commands players can select during a battle, such as attack, spell, defend, item, equip, and run away. The page emphasizes adapting your strategy based on the enemy and the current situation. It also breaks down attack types into physical and magical categories, and gives examples of spells like Rukani to lower enemy defense, Baikiruto to boost attack power, and Pyorim to increase agility. Some spells, like Mera and Hyado, have elemental affinities that are more effective against certain enemies. The page has several screenshots featuring battle scenes and character stats, and has tips like, physical attacks are mostly ineffective against solid-looking monsters, and you can damage a monster with Hyado if it resists Mera. This page dives into battle strategies for Dragon Quest II, focusing on defense and spell usage. It explains how to use defend and various spells to protect against enemy attacks, mentioning spells like Mahotorn to seal enemy magic and Manusa to lower enemy hit rate. The page also discusses using items strategically, highlighting the Staff of the Magus as a tool with unlimited uses to conserve MP. There are screenshots showcasing battles against various monsters and character stats, demonstrating how to effectively use defense and magical attacks. One section emphasizes understanding your party members' strengths and weaknesses to create effective battle strategies and prioritizing turn order. The page also gives advice on reviving sleeping characters, recommending attacking them with weaker party members to wake them up without causing significant damage. The next page is a guide to party composition in role-playing games, likely Dragon Quest III, as that is the game that the screenshots are from. It talks about how to create different parties based on your preferences and goals, highlighting that party composition affects combat strategies. The guide suggests 7 types of parties, including a balanced party with a warrior, fighter, priest, and mage, an attack-focused party, a magic-heavy party, a defensively oriented party, a treasure-hunting party, a party with all luck-based characters, and a money-making party. The page also touches on gender differences in characters, noting that male warriors generally have higher strength, while female warriors have higher agility. It mentions that personality can also affect stats and gameplay in the series, and discusses how changing jobs, such as in Dragon Quest VI, can affect character stats and abilities. There is a party creation window at the bottom of the page. The next page showcases the attack animations of various monsters from Dragon Quest II. It highlights how the sound and visual effects in the game are linked to bring the attacks to life. The page features onomatopoeia to describe the attacks, such as Zubapa for a face-smashing attack, Bitansu for a jumping attack, and Dogatsu for a body slam. Some monsters, like the Abarazaru, a gorilla-like monster, are shown with multiple frames of animation to demonstrate their attacks. The page also discusses monsters like the Kane Mukade, fire centipede, which curls up and performs a rolling attack. Other monsters include the Shibir Kuraj, paralysis jellyfish, the Mira Otoko, mummy man, and the Doku Doku zombie, poison zombie. Hoimi slime uses Hoimi, a healing spell, and Kyato Furai, the Mahotone spell. This page is a full-page advert for Momotaro Dentetsu Happy, a board game for the Super Famicom, SNES. The advert announces the game's release and showcases screenshots of the new title screen and gameplay. It highlights features like exploring the ocean floor and events, also mentioning enhanced graphics and animations in calendar scenes, with characters moving around. There is some talk about the destination and how the graphics change depending on the local area you arrive in, like 100x better than before. This page delves into the details of Momotaro Dentetsu Happy, showcasing the terrifying aspects of King Bombi and the horrors of Bombirasu Planet. King Bombi is back, and more menacing than ever. He'll continue to torment players in unexpected ways. This time, he'll even drag players on forced tours of Bombirasu Planet, the homeworld of King Bombi. The planet appears to be filled with minus stations, with a treacherous exit that may lead back to the original world. Choosing the wrong exit means an endless tour of the planet, so only those who are prepared should visit. The game introduces 128 different types of cards, and understanding how to use them effectively is important for victory. A new block card can be used to shut down enemy attacks, and a rapid ball card can be used to attack, so players must master these techniques. It also mentions the Galaxy Railroad card that appears in DX. There are several screenshots on the page, including in-game action, the linear card, which is a transport card, and an event scene. The next page is an advert for Let's Go! Shining Scorpion. The advert proclaims, "Burning summer vacation. Thoroughly verify the room exhibited at the hobby show." For a Mini 4WD simulation RPG on the Super Famicom. It mentions that the hobby show was held on August 23rd and 24th, and the planned release date for the game is December 6th, with a price of 9,500 yen. The page also discusses the secrets of Shining Scorpion, specifically how the color changes, and that the main character's machine, Scorpion, has a major secret hidden within it and will transform during racing. The blue parts will turn bright red, and the machine has a hidden ability that must be brought out. This page focuses on Let's Go! Shining Scorpion for the Super Famicom. The page highlights that there are 12 different courses, all of which are available in the room, with difficult sections on each. It then showcases and describes some of these courses, including a straight course emphasizing speed, a spring race with sandy sections for grip battles, quote, a jet coaster course with a large bank, quote, a tunnel course with oil slicks, recommending a low center of gravity setup, a summer race with consecutive hairpin turns, quote, an Ice Banyan course. It notes that in free battle mode, players can choose any course. The page also delves into machine settings, emphasizing the importance of weight and other parameters. It states that being able to freely customize the machine makes this room special, and that customizations are faithfully represented on screen. It also briefly mentions that modifications such as weight reduction and equipping large diameter wheels are possible. The next page is a promotional feature for Mini Yonku GB Let's Go! Tentative title. It highlights the game's development team and reveals photos of in-game maps and courses. The game, developed by Creatures, the creators of Pokemon, features a story mode similar to the Super Famicom version, where players travel via trains and buses. It appears that one-on-one races will be available. The page showcases several in-game locations, including the Mini Yonku Tower, GJC, Kurosawa's house, and a neighborhood. It also includes screenshots from races, showing the game's interface, and the ability to customize Mini 4WD machines. The page then moves on to a summer vacation diary section, which recounts the writer's adventures and experiences related to Mini 4WD. It includes events and competitions, like the Sapporo tournament and a Tokyo Heat competition. It mentions the writer's enthusiasm for the new circuits and the unveiling of the new Mini 4WD kit. It also touches upon the camaraderie among Mini 4WD enthusiasts and the excitement of the races. The feature ends with a section titled, "Fighter is Hot-Blooded," praising the spirit of the Mini 4WD racers, showing the contestants and champions from various races. This page is a magazine feature, a reader's request top 30, highlighting the most popular games as chosen by the readers. The top 3 games are Super Famicom, Dragon Quest II, and Into the Legend, Mario Kart 64, and Wonder Project J2. The top 3 haven't moved from their positions. Wave Race 64 climbs up to 4th place, being a new title for the Nintendo 64. Street Fighter 02 is 5th. The list continues with other titles. Kindaichi Shonen no Jikenbo, tentative title. Super Mario RPG 2, tentative title. Ganbare Goemon 5. Jikyu Powerful Pro Yaku 4, and Mother 3, tentative title. Other titles include Bokuju Monogatari, Story of Seasons, Wizardry Gaiden IV, 064, Magical Drop 2, Mini Yonku Shining Scorpion Let's Go, Yoshi's Island 64, and Duke Yusei 2, Jaganjia, Megami-sama, Super Jinsei Game 3, GOD, Dragon Knight 4, and SD Gundam Generation titles. The magazine also included Jikyu Power Pro Wrestling 96, Monstania, Jikyu J-League Perfect Striker, Choukukan Knight Pro Yaku King, Bomberman 64, tentative title, and Rev Limit, tentative title. The next page features reader rankings of new Super Famicom games. First up is Ninja Boy Sasuke, an action game with a release date of August 9th and a price of 8,800 yen. Readers rated the game's overall score, character, sound, enjoyment, value, and originality. The review mentions using ninja skills to defeat enemies and progress. Next is Story of Seasons, a simulation game released on August 9th, priced at 7,800 yen. The game is described as heartwarming and refreshing, offering a realistic experience. Akazukin Cha-Cha, a role-playing game released on August 9th and priced at 7,800 yen, based on the anime of the same name, with charming characters. Super Power League 4, a baseball game released on August 9th, priced at 7,980 yen. Reviewers noted smooth player movements and exciting in-game commentary. SD Gundam Generation Axis Battle, a simulation game released on August 23rd, priced at 3,980 yen. The game is part of the SD Gundam series and features ZZ as its motif. Simulation Pro Baseball 2, released on August 24th, priced at 8,000 yen. Players take on the role of a manager, instructing players and aiming for victory. Finally, SD Gundam Generation Babylonian War Record, released on August 23rd, priced at 3,980 yen. This game is based on the theatrical anime and focuses on themes from Char's Counterattack and F91. This page features reader rankings for several Super Famicom and Game Boy titles. On the Super Famicom front, there's Daisen Ryaku Expert WW2, a simulation game released on August 30th, priced at 9,800 yen. The review mentions the game is set during World War II, with players commanding various types of weaponry. Then there's Numbers Paradise, a guide software for predicting lottery numbers, released on August 30th, and priced at 8,800 yen. Sankyo Fever Simulation 3, released on August 30th, priced at 7,480 yen, is a pachinko simulator. The review highlights the enjoyment of playing the latest machines from Sankyo. Hisatsu Pachinko Collection 4 is another pachinko game, released on August 30th, and priced at 9,980 yen. The review highlights the girls with large swaying breasts. On the Game Boy side, there's Netu Samurai Spirits, Zankuro Musuken, an action game released on August 23rd, and priced at 4,500 yen. The review notes the comical characters and story, while still retaining the essence of the Samurai Spirit series. Also for the Game Boy is Momotaro Collection, released on August 9th, and priced at 3,980 yen, which includes Momotaro Dentetsu 2 and Super Momotaro Dentetsu 2 on one cartridge. The page ends with a section asking readers to send in their opinions on the games. The magazine is looking for feedback on new games, such as Bokujo Monogatari 2, Story of Seasons, and offers a Famimaga special telecard to 10 people selected by lottery. This page presents weekly sales rankings for the periods of August 26th to September 1st and September 2nd to September 8th. For August 26th to September 1st, Super Mario 64 holds the top spot, followed by Daikaiju Monogatari 2 and Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy's Kong Quest. Other games in the top 10 include Moguranya, Star Ocean, Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, Pilot Wings 64, Netu Samurai Spirits, Zankuro Musuken, Daisen Ryaku Expert WW2, and Super Famista 5. The reviewer notes that Super Mario 64 is consistently strong, and while points may fluctuate weekly, it maintains its top position. Daikaiju Monogatari 2 has risen to second place, showing its strength. G-flat titles are also performing well, with Moguranya at 4th and Netu Samurai Spirits at 7th. For September 2nd to September 8th, Super Mario 64 remains at the top, with Kawano Nushitsuri 2 in second place and Kirby Superstar at number 3. Other games in the top 10 include Daikaiju Monogatari 2, Moguranya, Isutsuri Rituhen, Star Ocean, Bomberman Collection, Super Mario RPG, and Donkey Kong Country 2. The reviewer points out that new releases are lacking, with Super Mario 64 maintaining its dominance. Games like Pilot Wings 64 and Super Strong Shogi are losing momentum. Kawano Nushitsuri 2 and Isutsuri Rituhen are benefiting from special sales in stores. This page is a Famimaga Journal information corner focusing on Enix's Dragon Quest CD Theater and Chunsoft's Furai no Shiren GB, with a scoop on the Hayatogai campaign. The page highlights the release of Dragon Quest VCD Theater, both upper and lower volumes, with comments from voice actors like Seki Tomokazu, Hisakawa Aya, and Yoshida Konami. It also introduces Takada Akimi PC Engine fan cover artwork collection, Photo CD, featuring illustrations by Akimi Takada, and a corner dedicated to female character called Ai-chan, with a web page mentioned for more information. The page also has information on how to order, and there's a chance to win Dragon Quest CD Theater gifts, including autographed shikishi boards with signatures from the 6 main voice actors from the story. The next page features a spread of events and promotions, starting with the Galaxy Fraulein Yuna 10,000 person event, which includes an OVA screening and guest appearances by voice actress Chisa Yokoyama. There's also a Furai no Shiren GB campaign for early players, where completing the game with a certain difficulty unlocks a special card. For Galaxy Fraulein Yuna, the page details schedules for events in Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo in October and November, listing guest voice actors, including Mika Akita, Tomosai Kawamura, Miki Takahashi, and Yumi Tuma. The event offers chances to win special t-shirts, with application instructions provided. A promotional campaign highlights Saikyu Habushugi, offering players a chance to win prizes by achieving the 3rd Dan rank, and also gifts a poster of Furai no Shiren for promotional purposes. There are images related to the game, and goodies available. This page is an advertisement spread featuring a mix of CD, video, book releases, and promotional campaigns. It starts with CD releases like Angelique Gaiden, Unlimited Scale Music Collection, and Monthly Tokimeki Memorial No. 3. Video releases include Ninku Sky Ninja Volume 9 and TV series Ranma 1/2 Volume 17. There's a You Want Gundam series Playmo campaign where participants can win Gundam model kits. A sweepstake is in place where 100 people who apply will win a Gundam model kit featuring the Red Zaku. Also highlighted is an event for Angelique in the Land of Wonder, with promotional events scheduled at the Akihabara Yamagiwa Soft Building. It also features an event on October 6th, and fans can play the board game and win prizes. The next page highlights the upcoming BS Famicom Tale, BS Shin Onigashima, BS New Onigashima, a sound-synchronized adventure game based on the well-regarded Famicom Disk System title. The broadcast schedule is from September 22nd to October 19th, with episodes airing weekly for an hour each from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. The game remixes several Japanese folktales and includes an original scenario. Each episode is divided into 3 parts, and a pay-per-play segment narrates the story. Players can choose commands to solve puzzles in the adventure portions, with a feature to review their actions. Screenshots from the first 3 episodes are shown, focusing on the characters of Ringo, Matsunosuke, and Ohana, and some dialogue. The page also provides gameplay tips. The directional pad is used for movement, and the A button is used for attacks. The 4th episode involves landing on Onigashima, and the player needs to be cautious. A schedule of broadcasts is listed from September 22nd to October 19th. Games include titles like Organic Stone, ActRaiser, Super Bomberman 2, Kid Clown's Crazy Chase, Super Fire Pro Wrestling, Tsurita Taro, BS Spriggan Powered, BS SimCity, BS New Onigashima, and Soul Blazer. The page also mentions that due to a food-related event, broadcasts are suspended on October 19th, and that the ActRaiser and Ijuan Hikaru's radio wave transmission base will be broadcast from 0:30 and 1 o'clock respectively. This page is a full-page advertisement for Wave Race 64 on the Nintendo 64. The ad emphasizes the game's perfect navigation, highlighting its modes, and aiming to conquer the waves. It promises a refreshing experience with the strategy guide, and showcases in-game characters riding jet skis. It also lists the price of 9,800 yen, and a release date of September 27th. The next page is an instructional guide for Wave Race 64, focusing on mastering the game's controls. It highlights the importance of understanding the basic techniques to navigate the jet ski, using the 3 buttons and 3D stick to perform acrobatics and high-speed maneuvers. The guide covers various techniques, including acceleration, weight shifting, handling, quick turns, and air turns. It also provides instructions on performing push and slip techniques, along with step-button camera adjustments. This page provides an instructional guide for Wave Race 64, focusing on mastering acrobatics using the 3D stick. It emphasizes the importance of mastering these techniques to enhance your score and overall gameplay. The guide illustrates how to perform various acrobatic maneuvers using the 3D stick during jumps, including loops, twists, and submarine dives. It also covers ground maneuvers like the somersault, standing, backward, and handstand. The page offers tips for success in performing these stunts, such as ensuring sufficient height for twists and timing the submarine dive correctly. It also explains how to hold to maintain a certain position, limiting movement to up or down while in the hold. Additionally, the guide details the axle-off techniques for water surface tricks, which can only be performed if you are not accelerating at the time. Finally, the page touches on the options menu, allowing players to customize game settings like water conditions and the number of laps. It also explains how to save and load game data using the controller pack. This page is all about selecting and customizing your machine in Wave Race 64 to gain the edge in races. It introduces 4 distinct characters and their respective jet skis, highlighting their unique characteristics and performance capabilities through graphs. The characters include David Mariner, known for being fast but having heavy handling, Miles Jeter, who is all-around average for handling, Ayumi Stewart, which is best suited for beginners due to its ease of control, and Ryota Hayami, a versatile choice for all-around performance. The page provides customization tips, suggesting to decrease grip for extra speed, potentially making the machine harder to control. It also shows options to adjust handling, engine, and grip via a settings menu with 12 levels of adjustments. A tip is to have the handling setting as low as possible. The next page is an introduction to Championship Mode in Wave Race 64, and covers the game's racing rules. It highlights 3 classes, Normal, Hard, and Expert, each featuring 8 rounds. The goal is to earn points in each round to advance. The higher your rank, the more points you receive. The page explains the course layouts with red and yellow buoys, which must be passed on the correct side. Failure to follow the rules or missing 5 buoys will result in disqualification. It also details how to manage the jet ski's engine power. Correctly passing buoys increases power, but missing them causes a decrease. Additional gameplay tips are provided, such as timing the accelerator for a rocket start. This page provides a course navigation guide for the normal class in Wave Race 64, specifically Round 1. The guide focuses on 2 key curves in the oval course, advising players to avoid the beach on the first curve. To avoid this, when taking corners, use the 3D stick. Inexperienced players should break the turn into 2 parts and avoid the beach where possible to avoid a speed reduction. It also recommends taking the inside line on another curve to overtake rivals, but warns of the potential to hit the beach if not careful. Finally, it suggests clearing buoys in a straight line to minimize mistakes, advising caution to avoid collisions with rival racers. The page includes screenshots illustrating these tips. The next page features a course guide for Sunset Bay in Wave Race 64, covering strategies for various sections of the track. The first tip discusses approaching a jump, advising players to jump slightly to the left of the buoy, and to ensure a perpendicular angle to the jump to maintain balance in the air. If you veer off course, then steer to the right. The second point focuses on handling rhythmically, zigzagging through the buoys, and explains how to use the 3D stick rhythmically, lightly tilting it, and warns against colliding with opponents, which will reduce speed. The final tip is about a shortcut on the last lap, advising players to take it if they can ignore the buoys, instead of trying to clear them, as missing the buoys will cause the player to crash into the wall. The page includes several screenshots of the game in action, showcasing the tips being discussed. The course features a sunset color scheme and island-themed obstacles. The reviewer states that the normal class is straightforward speed course with jump platforms. This page continues the course guide, this time for Milky Lake in Wave Race 64. It's a normal class course with a foggy, low-visibility theme. The guide points out that taking a detour around a small island is actually faster than trying to cut through it directly, which will slow you down. There are 2 detour options, the right side being wider and recommended. The next section advises approaching a slalom area rhythmically, zigzagging through the buoys, but warns of the dense fog and potential collisions. Finally, the guide suggests sticking to the right side when navigating a buoy-filled zone, and taking a wide detour around it. The next page continues the Wave Race 64 course guide, now focusing on Marine Fortress. It's another normal class course, set in a somewhat gloomy environment filled with obstacles like debris and wooden crates. The guide cautions against underestimating the wooden crates, as hitting them can send you flying. The guide highlights 3 key areas. 1. Wave riding shortcut. It advises using the waves generated in front of long obstacles to jump over them. 2. Wooden crate obstacles. The guide warns against colliding with the wooden crates scattered throughout the course, as they can cause significant setbacks. 3. Quicks. The guide recommends using quick turns to navigate the curves, emphasizing the importance of buoy placement to avoid mistakes. This page continues the Wave Race 64 course guide, this time for the Dolphin Park track within normal class. The guide emphasizes the large tanker ships that act as walls, and the need to race through the dock area. It breaks down the course into 3 sections. 1. VBUOY, an obstacle right curve. The guide advises caution around the first corner due to the placement of oil drums on the left. 2. Quick turn at a right angle. It recommends performing a quick turn in front of a tanker to clear all the buoys. 3. No jump platform use. The guide advises against using the jump platforms at the final hairpin corner, and instead sticking close to the tanker for the shortest route. This page continues the guide, now covering the Southern Island track, also in normal class for Wave Race 64. The page is organized into sections. Normal class, Round 6, provides information and tips for the track. It notes that the course takes place around a beautiful southern island, with clear waters, and even features dolphins. It warns that the water level changes each lap due to the tide, which affects the course layout and difficulty. Tidal changes. Highlights the impact of the changing tide on the course, advising players to adapt their racing strategy for each lap as the water level drops. Navigating the masts. Emphasizes the importance of mastering the first corner, which features masts in the middle of the course. Navigating these masts will affect subsequent buoy placements, making it easier or harder to progress. Submarine shortcut describes a shortcut where players can use a ramp to jump over a row of boards into the water and continue the race underwater. It advises only using the jump on the first lap, lining up the jump properly, and using the stick to dive and continue through the submarine section under a bridge. The guide mentions that during the second and third laps, the tide will be low enough that you can drive underneath the bridge without having to go underwater. The next page is a strategy guide for Wave Race 64's hard class tracks. It emphasizes key points for success in Round 1. The page highlights 3 main tips. 1. Adjusting your posture after corners. It stresses the importance of clearing the back straight to achieve a top position. To maintain a straight line, players should keep their machine parallel to the course after the first corner. Quote. 2. Avoiding the mines. Mines appear unexpectedly on the back straight. It advises players to operate carefully, taking advantage of the wide gaps between them. It suggests riding the waves to pass over the mines. 3. Setting the direction for corner exits. The final corner should be approached using the flow of the route buoys. After clearing the corner, adjust your racing line to clear the 2 route buoys on the straight. This page is a strategy guide for Wave Race 64's Sunset Bay course, specifically for the hard class. It highlights several key points. Firstly, it instructs players to jump left from the ramp, noting that the ramp can only be used on the right half due to red route buoys. After landing, players need to clear the yellow route buoy by jumping diagonally forward to the left and preparing for the next right turn mid-air. Secondly, it advises players to clear sections using aerial turns, as route buoys are placed directly, and high waves can launch the machine. By using these waves to jump, players can perform aerial turns to clear the buoys. Thirdly, the guide warns of mines placed near the final corner before the goal. It suggests a risky but potentially time-saving shortcut through the minefield. The next page presents a strategy guide for the Milky Lake course in Wave Race 64, focusing on the hard class difficulty. The guide emphasizes that the challenging aspects of Milky Lake are the fog that obscures vision and the slalom and buoy sections, requiring high-level technique. It highlights 2 difficult route sections, where victory and defeat are determined. The guide advises players to be extra careful at the start, avoiding excessive turning, and to find a rhythm after clearing the first buoy, using the 3D stick to navigate left and right. It also advises that if you think that you cannot clear the race, give up early. One section focuses on navigating between the posts, advising players to proceed straight to clear the buoys in the course. It mentions that if you can cut the right side of the red buoy diagonally, you can clear the yellow buoy without changing your course. Another section highlights the importance of early and frequent handling and notes that the intervals between the buoys are closer than in the normal class. You are advised to turn the handle the moment after you clear the buoy. Screenshots accompany the text showing the player character navigating the course. This page continues the Wave Race 64 strategy guide for the Milky Lake course, focusing on the hard class difficulty. It advises players to take the waterway from the second lap onwards, emphasizing not to miss it. On the first lap, players should clear the buoy and proceed to the left, as the gate is closed. From the second lap onward, the gate opens, and a straight route appears ahead. The waterway has a left turn, so be ready for it. The guide also highlights the importance of aerial turns and cautions against touching the floating boards, recommending that players take the safest route, but if you have no time to spare, then you can jump over the board by riding a wave. Screenshots illustrate various points, like taking the course right on the edge, jumping to clear the hurdle. A map of the course shows the buoy layout, indicating the path to take through the waterway. The next page continues with the Wave Race 64 strategy guide, now focusing on the Port Blue course, highlighting shortcut routes for achieving the fastest lap times. It covers the appearance of 2 routes, advising players to turn off the accelerator before corners and turn it back on during the turn for successful execution, claiming it can save 2 seconds or more. The text also mentions that rival racers may crash attempting the shortcut. Another point discusses aerial turns, noting that the jump ramp layout has changed from the normal class, with the goal being to clear 2 route buoys on the final straight. To do this, the player needs to jump diagonally to the right and perform an aerial turn. Screenshots show how to prepare for a right turn with an aerial turn and what a successful landing looks like. A course map illustrates the shortcut route around a tanker. This page is an advert calling for reader submissions for the magazine's launch. It encourages readers to send messages, illustrations, and opinions about video game magazines. There's also a call for game reviews, inviting readers to share their thoughts on games, particularly those released after September 13th, outlining how the reviews will be used for analysis and asking for opinions on good and bad aspects of games. The submission details include the address for sending contributions and guidelines for formatting game reviews. The next page is a full-page advertisement for a new weekly video game magazine called Weekly Oyakudachi. It features various phrases promoting its content, highlighting its coverage of TV games, and boasting of its content of strategy guides and reviews, launching October 18th. This page is an advertisement for a new weekly video game magazine called Weekly TV Game Information Magazine. It boasts comprehensive coverage of TV games, complete with strategy guides and reviews. It emphasizes its extensive reviews, reliable data, and in-depth articles, and promises a thorough and satisfying read for gamers. The tagline on the page promises complete coverage of release software, which every week is perfected from catalog information, and all hardware software released and introduced by genre. The page offers multi-angle reviews and reliable data. The cross-review is old, so the weekly magazine offers a multi-angle of monitor adoption reviews and store sales data. The magazine is based on video game information, and the article pages are super thick and utilizes a special coverage system with speed. It is thorough, with strategy guides included, and will continue to be included with consecutive features. The next page is a recruitment advertisement for Famimaga Weekly. It seeks reader reviewers for a new Fair Judgment review section. The advertisement invites readers to play pre-release games at the Famimaga Land facility in Tokyo's Shinkiba district. It mentions the facility has over 200 monitors and game consoles. Interested readers are encouraged to apply via mail-in postcard. The ad also includes a map to Famimaga Land and instructions for participants, including details on transportation options from Shinkiba Station. This page provides tips and tricks for the Wave Race 64 game, focusing on the City Castle course. It highlights strategies for navigating the course, including advice on recovering from failed jumps, taking a shortcut through the beach, and clearing the 3 consecutive jump platforms at the end. The page includes screenshots demonstrating successful and unsuccessful approaches, with annotations explaining the correct paths and techniques. It emphasizes the importance of quick turns and precise navigation to overcome the course's challenges. The next page offers a course guide for Wave Race 64, focusing on the Southern Island course in hard class. It provides strategies for navigating the challenging waves and obstacles. Key points include caution near the sunken ship's route buoys, especially the red ones, and avoiding the signboard area by taking a detour. The guide suggests using push techniques to counter the waves and includes screenshots demonstrating effective approaches. The next page dives into the Wave Race 64 Championship course, offering navigation tips for the expert class. It highlights the challenging nature of the courses, stating that even reaching the final round is difficult. The page focuses on round 1, noting the subtle and intricate buoy placement. Key strategies include mastering corner passing, especially at the final corner, and maintaining speed to avoid being overtaken. Advice is given on navigating the slalom section and wave areas, as well as shortcuts and ignoring the final buoy when necessary. This page is a strategy guide for the Sunset Bay course in Wave Race 64 for the expert class. It emphasizes accuracy over speed for easy wins. The guide provides tips for 3 key sections of the course: the first corner, the jump ramp, and a corner with high waves. For the first corner, the advice is to take it wide to avoid crashing into the breakwater. The jump ramp requires a diagonal approach, and the guide warns against crashing into the wall during landing, recommending low jumps. For the wave corner, maintain an optimal exit angle, lightly jump over waves, and aim for the inside of the corner. It also points out that the series of corners should be approached in a straight line. Screenshots with tips help to show the ideal path. The next page is another strategy guide, this time focusing on the Milky Lake course in Wave Race 64 for the expert class. The guide advises not to aim for first place, but instead to focus on careful driving. It highlights the need to be cautious in 3 key areas: collisions in the first corner, slalom sections, and the buoy area. For the first corner, the guide notes that the red buoys are positioned towards the outside, making it easy to crash if you turn too sharply. For the slalom sections, it advises to keep the slalom width very narrow due to the presence of seaweed that slows you down. Finally, for the buoy area, The guide recommends slowing down slightly, completely releasing the throttle, identifying a clear route, and then gently accelerating while weaving through the buoys. The guide includes screenshots and diagrams to illustrate the best paths and techniques for each section of the course. The next page of the magazine features a guide for the Marine Fortress course in Wave Race 64 Expert Class, highlighting key areas and strategies. It emphasizes considering wave effects and maintaining your racing line. The guide points out that shortcuts open up after the second lap. It advises caution at the first wave jump. While you can jump it on the first lap, it's safer to go left after the second lap. High jumps are also recommended on the second wave to gain a slight lead. Next, the guide warns about wooden crates in the waterways that appear from the second lap. In the expert class, these crates float near the center and exits of the waterway, so sticking to the center is advised. The guide mentions a point after the red buoy, where you need to immediately move to the left, as there are obstacles near the right wall. For the buoy section, quickly turn to clear the first red buoy and go to the left of the obstacles, passing to the immediate right of the red buoy to avoid being washed away by the waves. This page continues the Wave Race 64 guide, focusing on the Port Blue course. It highlights the expert class and notes that there's little difference in difficulty between the expert and hard classes, focusing on shortcuts and jump techniques. The guide gives specific instructions, such as not getting too close to the boats, especially when entering shortcuts. It advises completing the final yellow buoy before entering the shortcut. The guide then breaks down the course into sections, providing mini-maps and screenshots for right and left turns, and advises players to use a small amount of steering. The final segment shows how to perform a low jump turn on the tanker. The guide advises using the center or right side of the jump ramp, performing a low jump in the middle when attacking the inside, and doing an aerial turn, watching out for the tanker's bow. The next page is also a guide for Wave Race 64, this time focusing on the Castle City course in Expert Class. The page emphasizes that it's not always necessary to use the jump platforms. The guide starts by explaining the submarine technique, which is required to clear the section. It also notes that there are more mines to avoid in this course, and you will need to slow down. The guide then highlights the importance of maintaining a straight line, and that taking the right detour results in a long lap. Finally, it gives advice on how to clear the final corner by performing a mid-air turn after hitting the jump, or avoiding the jump platform altogether. This page continues the guide for Wave Race 64, focusing on the Cool Wave course in Expert Class. The page emphasizes the importance of not being deceived by the ice and accurately running the inside lane. The guide starts by advising players to pass through the slight waterways on the inside lane, and to immediately release the accelerator if they end up on the ice, noting the narrow path ahead and cautioning against hitting the wall. Next, the guide advises sliding from the outside to the inside, referring to a large iceberg and using rivals runs as a reference. It suggests moving to the outside before getting on the ice, then turning the machine toward the inside. The guide then cautions being careful in the first lap, as the ice tends to be solid around the continuously placed buoys. It notes that from the second lap onward, it becomes easier, as rival racers will likely break up some of the ice. Finally, the guide emphasizes to run the edge of the ice, to take the shortest path. This page continues the Wave Race 64 strategy guide, now focusing on the Southern Island course in Expert Class. The guide highlights the difficulty of the course due to large waves and challenging buoy placement. The first tip emphasizes that directly passing through buoys is nearly impossible on this course, advising the use of push running with the B button and air turns. The second tip recommends taking the left side when passing obstacles, particularly from the second lap onwards when navigating the ship's bow or masts, suggesting an alternate route if an approach is difficult. The third point warns about the first lap of the submarine section, advising immediate evasion to the right if the player feels they will miss the platform due to waves, and noting the presence of a yellow buoy. It also adds that on subsequent laps, you should prepare for the yellow buoy immediately after, and that there isn't too much loss by going around the ship on its left side. The next page is a strategy guide for Wave Race 64. It focuses on the score attack mode, explaining the rules and how to achieve high scores. The guide explains that the mode involves performing acrobatic tricks and aiming for stylish performances. There are 4 scoring elements, including performing tricks, and you need to pass through checkpoints within the time limit to avoid disqualification. The guide also mentions time extensions are earned. The page shows various in-game screenshots to illustrate different techniques and scenarios, such as passing through rings and performing double loops off-ramps. It mentions the importance of varying tricks and suggests that judge will comment on your performance. It also suggests that performing double loops requires special character machine combinations. The next page continues the strategy guide for Wave Race 64, focusing on the score attack courses. Course 1 is Dolphin Park, a wide area suitable for performing various tricks. It recommends practicing jump techniques and mentions the possibility of performing all acrobatic moves within a single block. The arrangement of rings is comparatively simple here. Course 2 is Sandy Beach, and the guide warns about a minefield beyond the jump ramp on the back straight. It notes that this course's layout is tricky, and only one jump platform is present, making ring clearance crucial for high scores. The reviewer dislikes the minefield element. Course 3 is Sunset Bay, featuring sections where you jump through rings and perform acrobatics. It encourages players to execute twists and loops while clearing rings. The reviewer recommends performing advanced techniques against the sunset background. This page features course guides for Wave Race 64's score attack mode. Course 4 is Milky Lake, which is filled with fog and requires acrobatic skill. The key to a high score is the triple jump, and players are encouraged to try clearing the rings and perform advanced tricks against the landscape. Course 5 is Marine Fortress, a course where players must navigate rings on a breakwater right after the start, which is difficult. There are 2 jump platforms in the course, with the possibility of passing under the water gate on the first one. The wave conditions are consistent. Course 6 is Port Pirate, where the jump platforms are placed diagonally at the end of the course, and the player will need to figure out how to use the tanker to achieve the best score. However, ramming the tanker is a crash. The shortcut is currently closed. The page also notes a difficult jump close to the tanker. The next page features more course guides for Wave Race 64's score attack mode, detailing strategies and key points for achieving high scores. Course 7, Capel City, involves starting from a jump platform directly ahead, clearing rings underwater. Players with high grip machines should be careful to avoid running out of time while submerged. Course 8, Cool Wave, is set on a slippery ice rink, requiring players to maintain balance while performing stunts. Directional changes on the jump platforms are not possible, so players need to decide on their jump direction beforehand and perform stunts while sliding on the ice. Course 9, Southern Island, has rough waves coming from all directions, allowing for front and side wave riding for stunts. The basic trick is the submarine, but players are encouraged to challenge themselves with loops and twists. This page is Chapter 4 of the Wave Race 64 coverage, diving into the 2-player battle and time attack modes. It highlights that 2-player battles are more exciting against human opponents than computers, and the screen is split vertically for each player. You can customize machines and characters, even using the same characters. The page notes that the 1-player mode differs from 2-player due to screen limitations and a narrower field of vision. Additional tips suggest that handicaps can be enabled to give lagging players a speed boost, and that checking battle records can be motivating. Tactics like tackles are emphasized for disrupting opponents, advising players to ram enemies when entering corners. The page also includes screenshots of gameplay, machine selection screens, and versus results, along with comments from the reviewer about various aspects of the game. The next page is a continuation of the Wave Race 64 coverage, focusing on Time Attack mode and Championship mode. Time Attack is described as a mode for players who seek speed and a stoic world with no opponents to get in the way. The reviewer mentions that crashing doesn't matter as long as you're aiming for the best time. The page lists the courses available in Time Attack, excluding Dolphin Park, and notes that you can't compete against the Dolphin's best time. It also advises players to run with heart. Championship mode is described as a course for running, and it's mentioned that all courses are not available unless you go through the final stage of the expert mode. It suggests using Time Attack to practice for Championship mode, especially on difficult courses. The page also covers machine selection, noting that choosing the right machine and customizing it is important. Shortcut routes are also mentioned as being a challenge in normal class. The reviewer recommends running the Southern Island, Castle City, and Milky Lake courses. The next page is a feature on Wave Race 64, highlighting high-performance techniques and calling for submissions. An overview announces a contest featuring time attack and score attack modes. It details the rules for submitting entries and mentions that top players will receive a controller pack as a prize. There are sections focusing on acrobat and speed categories with specific courses like Dolphin Park and techniques to master, such as jump skills for big scores. The page offers tips on machine settings, emphasizing the importance of finding the right balance between top speed and grip. It also discusses discovering new techniques and finding the best racing lines to achieve the fastest times. Mentioning shortcut routes are a key to finding success. The next page is a strategy guide for Monstania. The guide highlights the puzzle-solving elements of the game and offers tips on navigating the stages. The page details the battle system, emphasizing strategic planning of AP usage for skills. Terrain and enemy positioning are crucial, and hiding behind obstacles can be advantageous. Skills like aim have targeting ranges displayed in yellow, and some attacks, like Shining Arrow, pierce through enemies. The text also explains the function of the various skills. Fire deals damage to surrounding enemies. Shining Arrow damages all enemies in a line. Scattered Shots damage enemies to the left and right. Kamaitachi damages the target and enemies to the left. Rotation Slash affects the front and rear. And Dash Strike damages up to 4 enemies in a line. This page of the strategy guide for Monstania focuses on clearing the sealed cave stage. It breaks down the storyline stage by stage, starting with the Forest of Encounters and leading up to the sealed cave. The guide emphasizes checking equipment and skills before entering a stage and understanding the stage's objective. It includes a story progression flowchart, starting from the Forest of Encounters through to the sealed cave. The flowchart branches off at certain points. The first stage, Forest of Encounters, involves defeating the kobolds. The strategy suggests luring enemies and using the recovery skill, or mysterious tree fruit, if damaged. For the streets, the second stage involves fighting a large group of slimes in 2 phases. Use characters with specific skills. The page also details skills available after clearing certain events, such as a critical hit from Pharaon. This page continues the strategy guide for Monstania. It covers gameplay tips for several areas of the game, including solving stone tablet puzzles in the forest, navigating a cave with floor switches and magic, and deciding which ally to prioritize. The guide details specific enemy encounters, such as goblins, bats, and mummies, and recommends strategies for defeating them, like using skills at a distance, or using the terrain to your advantage. The page mentions items that can be acquired after clearing certain areas, such as the mysterious tree leaf and wood shield, and skills that become available, like magic sword and spinning cut. There are also decision points, like whether to enter the Forest of Bewilderment or the ancient ruins. The player has the ability to use special skills to attack enemies from a distance, such as electric shock and flame. The guide shows the Forest of Bewilderment and the ancient ruins that can be selected on this path. The next page continues with the Monstania Strategy Guide, giving specific tips for different scenarios. First, there's advice for navigating the Forest of Bewilderment, where the party gets separated, and how to deal with goblin encounters. The guide also covers item hunts in the ancient ruins, suggesting that slime can drop items. Next is a walkthrough on how to defeat the giant bear using the environment to your advantage, and strategies for the green eater enemy. Finally, there's a puzzle with squares that the player must traverse over. The solution to 3 puzzles is provided. This page provides strategies for the game, Monstania. It details how to tackle the dungeon, advising players to focus attacks on Tanya in the graveyard, while being aware of zombies and flame enemies. Equipping Tanya with silver arrows is recommended. It then provides tips for the ship area, suggesting that players deal with pirates with the help of the 3 allied characters, warning that the captain will eventually surrender, so players must last until then. The guide provides a map with instructions to avoid enemies. Next, it advises how to tackle the battle with the Kraken on the wrecked ship, and the need to focus the attack by targeting one of the ship's legs. It notes how to avoid touching Pascal in the lab. The guide then advises how to navigate the research lab entrance by moving the Ohm enemies, focusing on ranged attacks. It then instructs how to deal with the sandworm, focusing on damage to its head. Finally, it gives instructions to get items. The next page continues with strategies for Monstania, focusing on 3 areas: the Tower of Sand, Nyarugo Forest, and the Sealed Cave. For the Tower of Sand, it describes the 3 floors and rooftop, highlighting the second-floor switch puzzle. In battle, the guide suggests focusing attacks on Tanya, while ignoring the Flyam summons. In Yarugo Forest, the strategy involves fighting giant bears, recommending that the character Phylon use Dash Cut and Chitta use Thunder. The sealed cave area details clearing 3 traps and includes a floor map to navigate puzzles involving colored stones and switches. It mentions fighting salamanders and knights, including how to use Time Stop and magic arrows effectively. There are some tips on how to defeat snow and how to move through the cave. This page is a reader survey and prize giveaway for Famimaga 64 magazine. Readers can win one of 20 copies each of Wave Race 64, Winning Post 2 Program 96, or Thoroughbred Breeder 2i. The survey asks about the reader's school or occupation, age, gender, and other magazines they read. There are questions on what console games they own and what kind of articles they want to see more of, such as Super Famicom, Famicom, Game Boy, Virtual Boy, Nintendo 64, and related topics. Readers can also provide feedback on game elements like character animation, music, gameplay, originality, and how much they are enjoying certain games, as well as whether they plan to purchase the Nintendo 64 console. It includes a section for readers to rate several aspects of the games listed, such as graphics, sound, gameplay, and originality, on a scale of 1 to 5, and provides examples on how to correctly fill out the entry card. The page finishes by announcing the winners of a previous Famimaga 64 prize draw, with lists of names of people from different regions of Japan who won prizes related to various games and products, like Akatsugi Cha-Cha and the Superpower League 4. The next page lists a number of games across various platforms as prizes in a giveaway. For the Nintendo 64, there's Wave Race 64, and a number of games with tentative titles like Ultra Donkey Kong and Kirby's Air Ride, along with GoldenEye 007 and J-League Live 64. The Super Famicom list includes Dragon Quest II, as well as titles like Super Power League 4. On the Game Boy, there's a selection of games including sports titles, puzzle games like Puyo Puyo 2, and others with tentative titles. Lastly, for the Virtual Boy, there are games like Virtual Gunman and Proteus Zone. This page also lists the magazine names, topics of articles that are in the magazine, such as titles like Mission Impossible, and hardware like SFC, Game Boy, N64, and lists different types of consoles as well. The next page is an article about Street Fighter 02 for the Super Famicom. It highlights the game's features, including the ability to play as all 18 characters, a first for the series. It discusses the game's balance adjustments made for the Super Famicom version and showcases screenshots of the game's arcade mode and character selection screen. The review notes the game's impressive porting quality, given the Super Famicom's hardware limitations. It also details the original features for the Super Famicom version, like the continue screen and stage selection screen, and the choice between manual and auto guard controls. The next page features an article about Street Fighter 02 for the Super Famicom, examining its appeal and how well it was ported. It boasts that all 18 characters are playable. The article mentions super combo gauges, auto guard features, and customizable options. Screenshots show gameplay, featuring Chun-Li vs. Zangief and Chun-Li vs. Guy. There's a comparison of character appearances and stages, including a look at Ryu vs. Sagat and Chun-Li's classic costume. The reviewer notes that the port is faithful to the arcade version. This page continues the review of Street Fighter 02 for the Super Famicom. The reviewer examines the port's faithfulness to the arcade version, focusing on how well the character's special moves have been recreated and the complete transfer of character color patterns. Screenshots show gameplay featuring Sakura vs. Dan, Ken vs. Appy Nash, and Ryu in various combat situations against himself, showcasing special moves like the Shinku Tatsumaki Senpukyaku, Hurricane Kick, and Shoryuken, Dragon Punch. The reviewer suggests that the game is nearly identical to the arcade version in its current state. The effectiveness of the Dragon Punch as a cancel move is highlighted, and a tip is given for performing a chain combo. Additionally, they mention a chain combo using the forward heavy kick. This page is a continuation of the Street Fighter 02, Street Fighter Alpha 2, review for the Super Famicom, focusing on Sakura Kasugano. The reviewer discusses the game's original combo system, mentioning the need to fill the super combo gauge to level 1 or higher to execute them. They note the simultaneous button press detection is strict in the SFC version. The review dives into the zero counter system, noting it's well implemented and has 2 types per character. Specific to Sakura, her basic abilities are mostly unchanged from the arcade version, but the knockback distance after being hit feels longer. They mention the change in Sakura's entrance scene from the arcade version, where she now jumps in from off-screen. Other observations include increased damage output, a well-transferred aesthetic, and tweaked projectile attacks. There are comments on the difficulty of linking certain moves, and the adjustment of spacing after Sakura's attacks. The reviewer observes that Sakura's Hadoken attack can be charged up to increase its energy. The next page continues the coverage of Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Famicom, now focusing on Ken and Chun-Li. Regarding Ken, the review mentions his Shoryuken, Dragon Punch, may appear less impactful visually, but his strong Shoryuken is still a highlight. It is noted that the timing for the knee drop move is accurately replicated from the arcade version. There's also praise for the implementation of his super combo, Shinri Uken, with its faithful recreation of the arcade version. The reviewer jokes that Ken may not be quite as strong as that guy. Switching to Chun-Li, the text suggests she might be overpowered in this version. They discuss the changes to her Tenshokyaku, spinning bird kick, and the speed of her Senretsukyaku, lightning kick, noting differences from the arcade version. It also mentions the difficulty of connecting her Senretsukyaku into the Hazan Tenshokyaku, but that a fast command input can help. The reviewer also notes that the 100 rending kicks are faithfully recreated, and they feel the level of the power of the Hadoken feels stronger than the arcade version. The reviewer concludes by questioning if the balance adjustments will make it into the final product. This page continues the coverage of Street Fighter Alpha 2 on the Super Famicom, focusing on Nash and Guy. Regarding Nash, the review talks about how well he translates from the arcade to the home console, noting very little difference. His Somersault Justice super combo is easy to perform, as well as performing standard and strong sonic booms. The reviewer mentions how all the basic combos have been faithfully recreated, including the rolling kick after certain moves. Moving to Guy, the review notes that some of his moves are more difficult to chain together than the arcade version. His Bushin Senpukyaku, Bushin Hurricane Kick, is highlighted, and his Izuna drop is faithfully recreated, but can be hard to connect with an opponent. It also wonders if it will be possible to pull off certain continuous attacks, such as the Hozanto, Mountain Buster, after a strong punch. The reviewer considers this home version a high-level port. This page features coverage of Dalsim and Gen from Street Fighter Alpha 2. The review of Dalsim discusses how his special moves, like the Yoga Teleport, can be difficult to pull off. It wonders if it will be possible to chain regular attacks into Yoga Fire. The article also mentions that Dalsim's strong punch doesn't always connect with attacks, and this might be adjusted in the final version. It covers his Yoga Strike. For Gen, the review explains that his Mantis and Crane styles can be switched by pressing all 3 punch or kick buttons simultaneously. Also, the review notes that his throws and super combos haven't been seen yet, but the rest of his moves are working fine. The reviewer wonders if he can decide cool special moves. It notes that the jump kick doesn't connect into crouching short punch, and he gets countered. The reviewer hopes crouching short punch cancel will be adjusted. This page features coverage of Zangief and Rolento from Street Fighter Alpha 2. The article discusses Zangief's powerful throws and wonders if certain techniques are possible in the game. It covers the flying body attack into crouching weak punch, then into a screw pile driver. It is noted that the timing for throws may have been adjusted compared to the arcade version, with some moves perhaps being easier to pull off. The review of Rolento notes that he is a new and tricky character with moves. It wonders about Rolento's basic combo techniques. The review also mentions that Rolento's Minesweeper is faithfully implemented, and his Techno Prisoner is also a faithful recreation. Some audio effects are missing at this point in the development. His Patriot Circle can be chained into 3 sets. The reviewer comments on the effectiveness of his standing medium punch, Surprise Rod, for controlling the air, which can be chained into a cancelable weak punch, and that a combo is a must. The next page features Rose and Birdie from Street Fighter Alpha 2. The article discusses Rose's Soul Illusion super combo, noting that it could not be confirmed. It questions whether this technique is even possible due to the limitations of the Super Famicom. The reviewer expresses hope for Capcom's technical skills. Rose's Soul Spiral is a new move added in Street Fighter Alpha 2. The article also notes that Rose's Soul Spark super combo is still being adjusted. The article also covers Birdie, stating that he seems to have a high degree of faithfulness in his translation. His crouching strong punch is now an anti-air move. The review mentions that Birdie's bullhead move is largely unchanged, and that his body turns red when he uses it. Birdie also has a new combo, the Bandit Chain, and notes that the timing is tight, and that the bullhead can be cancelled into the super combo. This page discusses Sodom and Adon from Street Fighter Alpha 2. Regarding Sodom, the article says that his Tengu walking special move feels faithful to the arcade version and can be used without much issue. The reviewer questions the necessity of doing the Tenchu Satsu super combo, which requires spinning the DPAD twice. Some of Sodom's bread and butter combos, like the Jigoku scrape, are said to work well, and the overall feeling is that Sodom's translation to the home console is well done. The article questions if his special techniques are possible to achieve, and notes his translation is of a high standard. His basic attacks link with Jigoku scrape. For a Sepidon, the reviewer believes his translation is also well done and easy to use. Adadon's Jaguar kick has different trajectories depending on the button pressed, and this is faithfully reproduced from the arcade. The reviewer notes that using the move feels natural. The page details a combo starting with a jump kick, followed by 2 weak punches, and then into a Jaguar Barrett assault. The article explains how to execute this move, and adds the translation of, "A Katadon feels good so far." The next page features the characters Sagat and M. Bison, Vega in Japan, from Street Fighter Alpha 2. Regarding Sagat, the article mentions the faithful recreation of his Tiger Raid super combo and praises Capcom's technical skill in handling the after-image effects. The reviewer comments on his high translation quality, and it describes Tiger Crush and Tiger Flow. The article questions if certain advanced techniques are possible, highlighting that the timing for linking moves like the Tiger Crush into Tiger Blow is tricky. It details specific techniques, such as performing a weak Tiger Crush from a distance, and only hitting with the second of the 2 hits. The review of M. Bison, Vega, states that his translation is faithful, except for the difficulty in performing his Vega Warp, which requires pressing 3 buttons. His translation is faithful. Apart from one point, it is difficult to unleash the Vega Warp. It then dives into specific techniques. The reviewer notes a particular combo involving a Psycho Shot followed by a head press, questioning whether they connect reliably. This page features Street Fighter Alpha 2, showcasing the characters Guki, Akuma, and Dan. The article discusses Guki's moves, emphasizing the ability to use the Gao Hadoken and Shakunetsu Hadoken without issues, and the Zanku Hadoken in the air. It mentions that his Shungoku Satsu super combo at level 3 feels functional, but the graphics weren't finished. The Gao Shoryuken is highlighted as consistently connectable. The piece questions if certain advanced techniques are possible. One is combining moves from the Tatsumaki Zanku Kyaku into a Gao Shoryuken. Transitioning to Dan, the article notes the character's high level of translation, and notes the Hahao Gadoken being used, his Koryuken contributing to his power-up. It notes the sample room allows Dan to avoid being crushed by enemy attacks. The piece then questions certain advanced techniques, such as canceling crouching weak punches into the Hisho Buraiken. The next page is an advertisement for the puzzle game Kuwanpa for the Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's 4-player battle mode. The game features color cube manipulation with panels, clear panels, and special panels like thunder panels. The magazine article explains how to clear stages by matching colors and using different techniques such as U-turn, L-drop, and advanced techniques involving moving cubes to clear panels. Also, strategies for maximizing scores and combos are mentioned. There is also reference to a practice mode that allows players to learn game basics and advanced strategies. The magazine mentions that strategic panel clearing lets you damage an opponent's life gauge. The next page features the Nintendo 64 puzzle game Kuwanpa, highlighting its various game modes. Up to 4 players can enjoy modes like Stage Clear, 1-piece Survival, Puzzle, and Versus Survival, offering both solo and multiplayer fun. In Stage Clear, players must eliminate a set number of panels within a time limit across 100 stages. Puzzle Mode tests your problem-solving skills with rotating cube challenges. 1-piece Survival is a classic survival mode where you clear panels to extend your life gauge. The versus survival mode allows for up to 4 players in a battle where clearing panels damages opponents. The page shows screenshots of the 2-player, 3-player, and 4-player battle modes, illustrating the chaotic fun. The text emphasizes the intensity of the 4-player battles and recommends having a firm grip on your controller. This page is an advert for the Super Famicom game Thoroughbred Breeder 2 is by Hecht, scheduled for release on October 18th, with a price of 8,200 yen. The advert highlights the game's features, focusing on raising racehorses and competing in races on an international stage. Players can breed, train, and race their horses, aiming to become a world-class breeder. The game starts with a 3-year-old horse and allows for breeding, purchasing 2-year-old horses, and entrusting training to trainers. The page also mentions the option to invest and expand overseas, enabling participation in international races. The next page offers tips for Thoroughbred Breeder 2 on the Super Famicom, detailing the training process and race participation. It explains the 5 training types available once a horse turns 3, emphasizing the importance of consistent training and careful consideration of the horse's condition to avoid injuries. The game allows for automatic training by an assistant who specializes in training based on the type of horse. The page highlights potential injuries like lameness, fractures, and poor prognosis, which can remove a horse from the game. Tips are given on preparing horses for races and checking their weight and condition. The article also details how to purchase betting tickets, considering popular choices, and investing in high-priced racehorses and breeding stock. Screenshots show the training interface, different training locations, race results, and betting options. The page ends with an image of a winning horse and jockey, encouraging players to aim for the top. The focus is on understanding the game's systems to effectively breed, train, and race horses. This page is an advertisement for Winning Post 2 on the Super Famicom. It showcases the game's features, including training horses, competing in races, and new features such as female jockeys and updated data. It highlights the game's release date of October 4th, with a retail price of 9,800 yen. The game enables players to race horses and compete against friends. It contains new data from the Central Horse Racing, including the schedule of the races, and features a few horses with their stats like Ramtara, Fukuzawa Yuichi, and more. There are also screenshots of the game, including races and management screens. The next page is an advertorial titled Game Boy Now! 96 Autumn New Collection. It suggests autumn nights are best spent with the Game Boy and recommends stocking up on batteries. It highlights the silver Game Boy Pocket and asks, "Wanna buy it together?" while picking up 4 games. The article promotes Yoshi's Panapon for the Game Boy, describing it as a revival of the Super Famicom panel action puzzle game. The player controls Yoshi to defeat Koopa, who is a magician, by matching and clearing panels. It supports 13 colors and is described as easy to pick up for beginners and allows for combos. It supports link cable battles with a few differences from the Super Famicom version. You can use combos to send panels to the opponent's field and obstruct their play. Because you cannot see the opponent's field, it adds a strategic element to the game. The game will launch on October 26th and retail for 3,000 yen. The page mentions the popularity of Pocket Monsters, Pokemon, and the upcoming Silver Game Boy Pocket. The text also discusses the planned metallic coloring. There is a screenshot showing Yoshi facing off against Koopa, along with other screenshots of the game in action, with multiple different game modes like Endless, Score Attack, Stage Clear, Puzzle, and Versus Com. This page is an advertorial titled Namco Nostalgic Masterpiece Collection Part 2, which focuses on classic Namco games. It highlights 4 titles included in Namco Gallery Volume 2 for release on November 29th at a price of 3,980 yen. The games featured are Galaxian, Dig Dug, The Tower of Druaga, and Family Stadium 94 for play on 1 cartridge. Also, it notes that some are not just straight ports and may contain new features. The article speaks about each included title. Galaxian is described as a classic shooter. Dig Dug involves strategic gameplay and defeating enemies with rocks. The Tower of Druaga is mentioned as a fantasy RPG, where you must rescue the Princess Kay and ascend the Tower of Druaga. And Family Stadium 94 is a baseball game that includes up-to-date data. It also mentions New Dig Dug, which is a variation of the game that was published overseas. The reviewer highlights that the enemies in Galaxian give more points when they are taken out in groups to aim for high scores, and that Galaga and Galaxian has improved graphics. The reviewer also comments on the charm and nostalgia of the games. The next page, titled Game Boy Now, features 3 Game Boy games. First is Picross 2, where you solve puzzles by filling in squares on a grid according to the numbers at the top and side to reveal a picture. The new game has 13 colors and 3 times the puzzle volume compared to the original. In this game, Mario walks around the field, solving puzzles, and Wario also appears. There are quick Picross stages, and after every third stage you enter a quick Picross stage. The game has a release date of October 19th and a price of 3,000 yen. Also, a quick mode has been added for people who like a challenge. The second game is Bomberman GB3, where you set off explosions to defeat enemies and destroy obstacles. This new game has height differences on the map, allowing Bomberman to jump and adding new actions. The game has story mode and challenge mode. The number of bosses, traps, and items has increased. The release date and price are to be announced. You can also ride a Moto Bombers, which are a type of Bomberman who rides around. And there are 4 kinds of Moto Bombers in the game. Finally, Challenge Mode is making its debut on the Game Boy. It is a mode where you compete for high scores. This page advertises the Super Famicom game, Super Famicom Turbo, a special cartridge that plays Super Famicom games. It highlights 2 games for the system: Pretty Soldier Sailor Moon Supers, Fua Fua Panic 2, and Crayon Shin-chan, Nagagutsu Doban. Sailor Moon Supers, Fua Fua Panic 2 is an action puzzle game where you launch bubbles to defeat your opponent. Filling the field with bubbles wins, and special moves can turn the tide. The game features Sailor Star's characters and is scheduled for release on September 27th for 3,980 yen. Crayon Shin-chan, Nagagutsu Doban is an action game where you jump on puddles to splash enemies. The game is set to release on September 27th for 3,980 yen. Water puddle placement changes so the player needs to predict where the enemy is moving. If the player gets hit by water 3 times, it is game over. Players are invulnerable when they match their color, but taking a different color is meaningless. The page also lists other games releasing, including the SD Gundam Generation Colony series and SD Gundam Generation Zanskare War, each priced at 3,980 yen. These offer a simulation experience and let you customize mobile suits. The next page features reader-submitted artwork centered around the theme of couples, with various fan-created drawings and accompanying comments. One piece depicts Mai-chan and Andy, described as a well-known couple from a specific region. There's also a drawing of a Kikimora and Mop pairing, and a mention of preferring friends over couples, in a comment about Salamander. The artwork also includes a Dracula XX image, and a request for more in-game moments, such as those found in a specific game from a reader in Chiba. The page includes a Zazel couple artwork, with a comment about how the 2 characters both love alcohol, and asks if they're a good match. There is also art featuring characters such as Angela and Hawkeye. The page references Mario 64 and an ending, and also highlights reader drawings of various other couples from games, along with humorous commentary about relationships and character pairings. One comment expresses confusion about the relationship status of certain characters. This page presents a variety of fan art submissions and reader comments, categorized under headings like Maniac Picture Gallery and Comic Attack. It also features a section titled Listen to My Song, touching on music. The fan art section includes artwork inspired by Star Ocean, drawings and comments about character pairings in Romancing Saga 3 and Seiken Densekitsu 3, humorous comic strips about in-game situations in Final Fantasy V, a brief discussion of music in Dragon Quest IV. Readers share their thoughts on favorite game tracks and dark BGM reminiscing about classic games. The page also features user-created comics about characters from a wide range of games. Quote, the next page is titled Postcard Mania Garden. It features fan-submitted content, reader comments, and illustrations. A reader expresses their excitement about character designer Kosuke Fujishima from Tales. Illustrations and comments touch on games like Ogre Battle, Super Robot Wars, Romancing Saga 3, Seiken Densetsu 3, Bahamut Lagoon, The Load Elemental. Fan art submissions showcase various characters and scenes from different games. There is a discussion about character relationships and team compositions. The page also includes information on how to submit content to the magazine. This page is a full-page advertisement boasting a bumper harvest of tips and tricks. The index is extensive, improving searchability for special moves. It features the latest Urwaza, special techniques, for all game consoles, including 30 Nintendo 64 titles, calling it a must-have for game players across Japan. It's the highly anticipated third installment, with B5 size, 928 pages for a price of 980 yen, tax included. Published by Takuma Shuten Intermedia Company, Limited, and released on October 2nd. The next page is an advertisement for the Dai Gihren 96 Autumn Edition Strategy Guidebook, containing 9,085 special techniques, Urwaza, for various game consoles. The book covers games for the Nintendo 64, Super Famicom, Virtual Boy, Game Boy, Famicom, 3DO, Neo Geo, Saturn, Mega Drive, Game Gear, PlayStation, PCFX, and PC Engine. The game catalog has 5,762 games, and it sells for 980 yen. This page focuses on Star Ocean, introducing new techniques and powerful enemies. Specifically, it details how to defeat the tough enemy Gabriel by having a character with musical talent learn and perform Clarinet 2 to trigger a battle, and then using specific skills like Azure Dragon Lightning Slash or Suzaku Piercing Strike, learned from Van Kingdom, combined with link combos. The page also mentions that defeating Gabriel earns a lot of experience and valuable items. There are screenshots of in-game battles and inventory, along with tips on how to defeat the enemy and what items they may drop, like the valuable, gorgeous helmet. The next page focuses on Samurai Showdown 2 for the Game Boy. It details secret techniques and hidden characters in Hot-Blooded Samurai Spirits Zankuro Musuken, introducing new characters like Yagyu Jubei and Minazuki Zankuro. The page has a list of hidden characters' special moves and command inputs for Yagyu Jubei in both Shura and Rasetsu forms and Minazuki Zankuro. It explains how to unlock these characters by inputting specific commands on the Takara logo screen and also unlocking a fast game mode by inputting a combination of directions and buttons. There are additional tips for the Star Ocean game, explaining how to get several items by completing private actions within the town of Sylvalant, and how Milia will provide a special item that enhances your stats. This page is a look at the Super Famicom game Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. The page mentions that after clearing the game, the demo scenes change, and there are 15 different demo scenes. After clearing the game once and replaying from the beginning, a new option called Enemy Cleverness appears in the config menu, allowing you to make the enemies smarter and stronger. The page then provides specific tips for the game. One section details events involving Shanann, a character in the game, and specifically, the Shanann's Imposter event. It tells you how to get Femina to talk to the imposter, and how to free a village with Femina or Jean so that Shanann's imposter will show up. Also about a training event with Deirdre/DG. There are instructions on how to power up the character Femina, also known as Femi. A final note mentions that in Chapter 7, after defeating the boss character Bloom, you should have Shanann wait next to Deirdre. The next page reveals Ultra techniques for video games. First up is Super Trump Collection 2 for the Super Famicom, where you can increase the maximum bet. In the poker and blackjack games, reaching 1 million points will change the background color. Also featured is a technique for Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64, where you can repeatedly collect Mario's hat to increase their number. This involves using warp zones in levels like Snowman's Land after Mario loses his hat. There is also a sound check section for an unnamed parlor game, detailing how to adjust the sound effects and music using certain button combinations. A hidden screen can be accessed and configured using button combinations to set the game to always win. Finally, it shows a screenshot of a pachinko game called Great Victory Yachter. The next page showcases ways to modify uniforms in Jikyu Powerful Pro Yakyu 96 Kaimakuban for the Super Famicom. The article explains how to alter uniform designs in the Arrange mode, allowing players to transfer uniform colors to different teams. It includes tables showing which players' uniforms change to which team's designs, and screenshots illustrate how to load saved puzzle games. 2 puzzle games are mentioned: Rulu's Iron Armor Piledriver and Chain of Training. The reviewer notes that these are difficult puzzles, and that you can load previously played puzzles using the editor after viewing the ending. This page presents advanced techniques for Earth Light Lunastrike and Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War. It starts with how to recruit the hidden commander, Kitty Teal, in Earthlight Lunastrike, by completing the laboratory scenario in Chapter 4 with Akira, who must remain under level 10. Kitty is useful because of their high stats. It also mentions that the magazine will be released on October 18th. For Fire Emblem, 2 methods to power up characters are described. In Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, if Fury is defeated, or has no lover by Chapter 5, Hawk appears in Chapter 8 and increases magic power and magic defense. Additionally, leaving Radney next to Yarbalva in Chapter 6 will result in Radney scolding them, which increases Radney's strength and luck stats. There are also details about Akira and their dedicated unit, Iason. The reviewer points out specific scenarios and chapters where Akira should be deployed to level up, ensuring they can still meet the criteria to recruit Kitty. A dangerous man will also appear in Chapter 3, and will gift you some items if you talk to him. This page is from a reader submission section titled, Everyone's Message Board. Readers share their gaming tips and experiences. One tip involves Super Mario 64's Bomb Battlefield level, where players can place a small block on the edge of a larger block, and then hip drop to make the smaller block disappear inside. Another Super Mario 64 tip shows how to immobilize an enemy by getting it stuck in a wall in the Lethal Lava Land course. Another trick highlights how to reverse the direction on a slider course in Super Mario 64. One submitted strategy to avoid damage when using gas explosions in Star Ocean uses a flint in front of the explosion and avoid damage completely. There is also a tip to read the back of signs in Star Ocean to find messages. There is also a tip to get free healing in the Sea Fishing Master game, where sleeping in the fisherman's house will fully recover HP. The next page is a collection of reader-submitted tips and tricks, titled Super Ultra Technique Collection. Readers can submit their techniques for a chance to win prizes. The prize tiers include gold, silver, bronze, and wood coins, each with increasing monetary value and special commemorative goods. There are tips for Super Famicom games like The Great Battle 2, where finding hidden items by checking behind tents. A trick to unlock the super difficulty level in the game, Spriggan Powered. There is also a tip to watch a movie in Great Battle 2. A tip for the Bokujo Monogatari, where the dog disappears when placed on a chick. The page also includes a form for submitting tips via postcard or fax, with fields for personal information, game title, and a description of the technique. This page is titled Hyper New Game Release Forecast, and previews upcoming game releases from September 20th to October 17th. Featured games include Magical Drop 2, SFC, a puzzle game where you match colored orbs, Wizardry Gaiden IV, Taima no Kodu, SFC, a Japanese-style RPG with oriental themes, Wave Race 64, Den 64, a 3D racing game with realistic water effects, Monstania, SFC, an action puzzle RPG Super Nichibutsu Mahjong 4, SFC, a mahjong game where you can learn and compete, Parlor, Mini 3, SFC, a pachinko game featuring the latest machines. The next page showcases several upcoming Super Famicom and Game Boy titles. For the Super Famicom, Crayon Shinchan, Nagagutsu Doban, an action puzzle game where Shinchan and friends use water to defeat enemies, SD Gundam Generation, Colony Kakutuki, a simulation game featuring G Gundam, SD Gundam Generation, Zanscale Senki, another simulation game this time focusing on Versus Gundam, Winning Post 2 Program 96, a horse racing simulation game with updated 96 data, Bishujo Senshi Sailor Moon S, Fua Fua Panic 2, a puzzle game starring Sailor Starlights. For the Game Boy, SD Hiryu no Ken Gaiden 2, a fighting game featuring 19 characters, Sports Collection, a collection of 5 previously released sports games, Street Racer, a racing game where you can attack your opponents. This page introduces Famimaga 64's recommended software guide focusing on Nintendo 64 titles. The magazine editors share their impressions of Wave Race 64, praising its exhilarating gameplay. Wave Race 64 is the main focus, with editors highlighting its impressive graphics and competitive races against AI opponents. They appreciate the feeling of racing in a dynamic environment, battling not just other racers, but the waves themselves. The editors also comment on the detailed water effects and recommend trying the game with a 3D stick for precise control. Other games mentioned include Wizardry Gaiden IV, Monster Mania, and Winning Post 2 as favorites among the magazine's staff. Additionally, there are thoughts on two-player battles in Wave Race 64 using the horizontal split screen, with opinions that it can be difficult to see. The page also features comments from various reviewers about Wave Race 64, praising its exhilarating feeling, graphics, and the need for precise control to master the waves. Finally, the price of the game and release date are listed. The next page features the Super Famicom adventure game, Marvelous, Another Treasure Island, where three young heroes combine their courage and strength to embark on an adventure. The game is described as a text adventure with action elements, where the story revolves around three boys exploring an island, solving mysteries, and discovering treasure. The player controls the characters Dion, Jack, and Max as a party, each with unique items and skills. They must combine their abilities to overcome obstacles, move heavy stones, and solve island mysteries. Teamwork is essential, and the characters must be positioned strategically to succeed. The page highlights the importance of teamwork, showing how the three characters need to work together. The game is scheduled for release on October 26th. The page also introduces the three main characters, Max, Jack, and Dion, briefly describing their personalities and skills. The next page is an advert for several games. First up is Versus Collection for the Super Famicom, a party game with 4 mini-games for up to 4 players. These include a puzzle game, a snow battle called Yukidama Poi Poi, a racing game, and an action game. Next is Puzzle Ninja Tama Rentaro GB for the Game Boy, based on the anime, a puzzle game where you can sabotage your opponent with ninja techniques. The Game Boy version features 2 color panels and 17 playable characters. Finally, there's Mini 4 Boy for Game Boy, a simulation game where you customize your Mini 4 WD race car and compete. You can buy parts and create over 24,000 different machines. The goal is to win the Category 1 race. This page features the latest games, including CR Arabian Harlem X1 from Kyaraku Sanyo and R Gensan of Daiku from Sanyo Busan. There is a strategy mode where players can study the game and practice mode. There is also a Parlor Mini 4 SFC game and a Pocket Super Black Bass game, which is a fishing game where you can catch rare fish. The Parlor game features a special mode where, after a certain point, the LCD digital display shortens by 100 rotations. The features in the game include reach patterns and the ability to study winning strategies. The fishing game allows you to fish in various weather conditions. The lure can be increased to 16 types. The movement is done by Fish Finder. The game is being released on December 20th for 4,980 yen. The page also announces the Japan Game of the Year 96 awards, with Tokimeki Memorial winning the grand prize. The next page is a release calendar, showcasing new games for Nintendo 64, Super Famicom, and Game Boy. For Nintendo 64, the list includes Wave Race 64, Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, Wonder Project J2, and GoldenEye 007. Additionally, there is Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, 064, Kirby's Air Ride, Star Fox 64, and J-League Live 64, along with many others that have tentative release dates. For Super Famicom, Wizardry Gaiden IV, with a subtitle roughly translated as The Drumbeat of the Demon Womb, is shown. Finally, for Game Boy, titles include Street Racer, Super Chinese Land, Sports Collection, SD Hiryu, No Ken Gaiden 2, Picross 2, Puzzle, Ninja Boy, and Yoshi's Panapon. This page from Famimaga 64 promotes the upcoming issue, highlighting the Nintendo 64 release rush, featuring the Super Famicom title, Marvelous. The next issue will be released on October 18th, along with the launch of Famimaga Weekly. A calendar section provides release dates and prices for various games, including Super Famicom and Game Boy titles. Some highlighted games include Hera Collection, Momotaro Collection 2, and Super Black Base Pocket. Several games have undecided release dates. There's also a list of Virtual Boy games, such as Doraemon, Starseed, and Virtual Block. The page also lists the price for Game Boy Pocket Silver at 7,800 yen. Finally, at the bottom, it shows a Fanta drink promotion to win a Nintendo 64 console or game software using the provided seals from the drink. The next page is an advertisement for Atsuya Furuta's Simulation Pro Baseball 2 for the Super Famicom. It touts the game's realism with 384 real players and data analysis, supervised by the famous catcher Atsuya Furuta. The advert highlights the game's editor, a screenshot from the gameplay, and the best 10 batsmen. It also promotes Thoroughbred Breeder 2i, the horse racing simulation game, also for Super Famicom, set to be released on October 18th, priced at 8,200 yen. The baseball game's price is 8,000 yen. The next page features an advertisement for Atsuya Furuta's Simulation Pro Baseball 2 on Super Famicom. It emphasizes the game's realism due to the data analysis and features 384 real players, all supervised by the baseball catcher Atsuya Furuta himself. Also shown is the Thoroughbred Breeder 2, also for the Super Famicom, the horse racing simulation game. This page is an advertisement for Wave Race 64 on Nintendo 64. It highlights the game's graphics and wave effects and mentions the release date as September 27th. The game offers modes like Championship, Time Attack, Score Attack, and 2P Battle. The ad also details the price of the game at 9,800 yen and mentions compatibility with the controller pack. The ad mentions Kawasaki Jetski and notes that the software uses the cooperation of Kawasaki Heavy Industries.